question number 2, and here we have to differentiate between these two terms. We have given as dominance and recessive. So we have to differentiate between dominance and recessive. If we talk about the difference between these two, then the dominant allele is able to express itself even in the presence of recessive allele. We have two types of alleles, alright, the dominant allele and recessive allele. So in case of dominance, the dominant allele can or is able to express itself in the presence of recessive allele. Whereas if we talk about recessive one, then it is unable to express itself in the presence of dominant allele. If we talk about another thing, the dominance, then dominant allele will not require, it does not require the similar allele to express its expression. Whereas if we talk about in the recessive one, it requires a similar allele. It requires a similar allele to express itself in the phenotype. Alright, in the homozygous recessive condition only, the recessive allele will express itself in its phenotype. Whereas in dominance, if we talk about, the dominant allele will not require the similar allele to express itself in the phenotype. If the dominant allele is present with recessive one, then it also can, it is also able to express itself in the phenotype. Or even if the dominant allele is present with it, then it is also able to express itself in the phenotype. So this is no matter that the dominant allele will require the similar allele to express itself in its phenotype. The next thing, if we talk about these two, then the dominant allele will produce functional enzyme to express itself in the phenotype, whereas recessive allele produces incomplete or defective polypeptide or enzyme which is not capable of expressing the character completely. So if we talk about the difference between these two, in the left column we are going to talk about the dominance. Here we are going to talk about the recessive. Alright, so first difference between these two is it is able to express itself. We are talking about dominant allele. Dominant allele is able to express itself even in the presence of recessive allele. Whereas if we talk about the expression of recessive allele, then recessive allele is not able to express itself in the presence of dominant allele. Alright, this dominant allele can express its expression or is able to express itself even in the presence of a recessive allele, whereas this recessive allele is not able to express itself if it is present with the dominant allele. The next thing, if we talk about the difference between these two, is it does not require the similar allele to express in the phenotype. For example, if we take example, so this capital T is actually a allele of tall height in the plant, this dominant allele is able to express itself even in the presence of another dominant allele, even in the presence of another recessive allele. Alright, so if this dominant allele is present with dominant allele, if it is present with recessive allele, it will going to show, or it will going to express its expression in the phenotype, no matter whether it is present with the similar allele or whether it is present with the dissimilar allele. Whereas if we talk about the recessive allele, then it requires the similar allele. It requires the similar allele to express in the phenotype, For example, if we talk about this one, then let's take this. This is the recessive allele for the height of a plant, that means dwarf. If it is present with this capital T, this is not possible. If we writing this capital T, it will be in this position, so automatically this will be tall. So to express its expression, or to express its expression in phenotype, it have to present with another similar allele, and in the similar allele if we talk about, then this case would be recessive, and the recessive case makes the plant dwarf, if you are talking about height as the character. So in the recessive allele, it requires similar allele. It requires similar allele means it requires the another recessive allele to express itself in the phenotype. Next, if we talk about the dominant, it produces functional enzyme. Always it produces the functional enzyme, whereas if we talk about the recessive one, it produces the incomplete or defective enzyme. So the result would be maybe incomplete or codominant. So this is the basic difference between the dominant and recessive allele. Dominant is able to express itself even in the presence of recessive one, and recessive is not at all able to express itself in the presence of dominant allele. This one will not require any similar allele to express itself in any phenotype, and this will require the similar allele. The similar allele, that means the recessive allele, another recessive allele, it will require to express itself in the phenotype. It produces functional enzymes, and whereas it produces dysfunctional or destroyed enzymes or defective or incomplete enzymes. So this is the difference between dominance and recessive.